sense. Make it make sense. Are we talking about the sense or the sense? Which one we talking about? How you guys doing today?
Good. Feeling good.
Man, I'm glad to have y'all here in the studio. This is all about you, Eric. It's all about you because you're the man with the plan. You're here to help us make it make sense, right? Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Play on the words, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Are we talking about the sense or the sense?
Yeah.
Which one we talking about?
A little bit of both.
Little bit of both.
Little bit of both.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we got today. We got Make It Make Sense with our financial guru, Eric Anderson. And we got a special guest here today. We got a special guest, Mr. Isaac Rowe in the building.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And, I'm glad you're able to come. Were you saying something? Did I interrupt?
No.
Okay, just wanted to make sure because I don't want to run over nobody. A good man in his speech, we got to let him talk. We got to let him cook.
We're good.
Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to exercise that principle. When someone speaks, we're going to listen. We're going to gain some wonderful insights. And to introduce myself, I'm Azaniah Israel. And, I'm just here to learn a few things from you, Eric. What you got for us today?
All right. What do you guys want to talk about?
Well, I was given a couple of topics, a couple wonderful topics that I think not only myself, but the whole world needs to hear about. And 10 topics. I don't know if we're going to get through all 10, but 10 topics about finances that we need to know, like crucial information that we need to know in order to get through our lives successfully. And the first one is budgeting basics. Budgeting basics. Now, I'm aware that I should have a budget, but budgeting is kind of hard because it's not my thing. I'm not the finance guy. I'm the just throw some money at it and watch it disappear guy. That's what I want to do, but not too many things are going to disappear if I keep doing that. So I want to ask you, can you just start off with the explanation of some crucial concepts on how to start a budget? What are some of the basic things that we should start with?
So when someone's looking to do a budget, you should really think about the way I look at it is either 80-20, 70-20-10, which is 10 to 15% of some type of savings or emergency fund or investing, 10% to people who go to church, so who tithe, like myself, so 10% is the tithing, and then the other 70% goes to your bills.
So if I don't go to church, what do I do with that other 10%? Can I make it rain?
No. If you're doing that, if you're somebody who doesn't go to church, you should still live within the 70-30, 80-20, maybe put more like 15% as opposed to 10, which you should be doing anyways, the 15% towards emergency funds or savings or investing.
Gotcha. Now, I am a churchgoer. Me personally, I don't look at that 10% rule of tithing the way that everybody else does, but I try to put mine in there, but I just put what I can. So what's the danger in me doing it that way as opposed to having a set percentage that come out?
I wouldn't say there's any danger in it, but if you are trying to follow, I don't want to say a strict budget, but if you're trying to follow a budget, it should be a goal to follow whatever rules or standards that you're putting into your budget. So if my goal is to do 10 to 15% in investing, I need to put that in my budget. I need to make that like that's a certain type of expense, like any other expense. And so that's where people get in trouble when they're trying to do a budget, is because they don't stick within that pie. When I work with financial coaching clients, we talk about you having a pie. So your pie is 100%. And I like to say that you need to keep your bills somewhere within the 70%, the investing somewhere between the 10 to 15%, and then the tithing in the other 10%. 10 to 15%.
Now, most of us, we didn't pay attention in math. We said, what are we going to use that for? Like, why do I need to learn about bar graphs and pie charts? And well, here it is right here. This is why I should have been paying attention in junior high and high school, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
So Isaac, this man just dropped a jewel. I just told you my flaw. Like, I just throw the money at it.
Yeah.
Even though I have the mindset and thought process of I should have a budget, in reality, I get beside myself. Life happens, and all of it goes out the window. So what do you take from what he said? You agree, disagree?
To some degree, yeah. You definitely should have a budget, and then I guess on that pie, how you do with the pie as far as like the 10%, as far as going if you're a churchgoer or not churchgoer. I usually like spread it around of how I give, like if it's birthdays or if it's something else that, however I want to give or be a blessing to others. So I kind of like give in that respect. Versus if I have the opportunity to do that or have the funds to be able to do that. But when it comes to my budget, sometimes I blow my budget, and so obviously something may happen or something come up, but I try to make sure that my budget and every dollar and every cent is kind of like prepared. But unfortunately, it seems like every month there's always something
It's
that's
always
happened.
something.
I was like, oh, I got to get tags. I got to get, oh, this is due. Oh, we need tires now. Certain things that you just really don't plan for. You have the money, but you just didn't plan it for like for as that budget for that month, and then maybe you have an event or something like that, and you didn't really plan for, and as far as like food, and that really gets me where it's like food expenses. Now we have a certain diet change, or the kids are not eating this, or so I have to figure out what's gonna work and how it's gonna make sure I'm able to stay within that budget. So
I
Okay.
think the biggest problem when someone sits down and says, "Okay, I'm going to do a budget," after what you're just saying, is let's say I need to stay within my 70%.
mm-hmm.
So no matter what my house payment is, no matter what my car payment is, no matter what these loans or whatever are, as long as I stay within the 70%, I'm within my budget. The problem with that is, like you said, we always have miscellaneous expenses.
Yeah.
So you should also say something in a miscellaneous expense kind of way to do somewhere in the 10 to 15% of that 70 as well. When I say 70%, 70% should not be fixed expenses, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. We all know what fixed expenses are.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't say, okay, well, you're telling me that as long as I put 15% into investing and 10% into tithing, I can do whatever I want to do with the 25%.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the other 75%.
Yeah.
So if I go buy a car and I say that falls within the 75% and this house falls within the 75%, that's how people end up living paycheck to paycheck because things are going to happen. You're still going to want to still live a certain lifestyle. Things are going to come up. You're going to want to spend money outside of your fixed expenses. But if your budget does not give you the ability to have miscellaneous expenses, that's where you end up using credit cards, getting personal loans, living paycheck to paycheck, and then it just starts that cycle.
Now, you just hit a couple things that definitely resonated with me. Getting credit cards, personal loans, etc. So what that means is when you utilize those tools, you're outside of your budget. That's why you're using it. So how do we put these financial tools into our plan of a budget, or is that something that's completely separate?
That's something that should be completely separate. I know a lot of people talk about not having credit cards at all or not going and getting business personal loans or anything like that. And there are other people who believe in getting credit cards to get the points and all kinds of stuff like that. But most people get credit cards and they end up buying things that they would not buy if they had cash. If I have credit cards, which I do, but I pay my credit cards off like weekly. As soon as I use them, I go and pay the cash to pay them off. So to me, I'm almost using my credit card like a debit card in that sense. Most people who get credit cards, they go out and they buy things that, again, you would not buy if you had to pay cash for it because, again, your budget would not allow you to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so because your budget cannot pay that credit card off, you end up clearing credit. And so then all you're doing is paying the minimum or steadily paying those credit cards off, and you're going to always be in debt living that type of way. So I say that to say you should not use your credit cards as putting that as part of your budget. If it's something that you cannot afford with cash, you probably should not buy it. You shouldn't use your credit card and just say, okay, I'm able to buy it or I'm able to go make this purchase or go on this vacation or do this because I have the credit cards to pay for it. It's still going to mess up your budget because now you have a bill or an expense of having to pay your credit card every month. And in most cases, you're only going to be able to pay the minimum.
Eric, brother trying to live like YOLO. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to do YOLO right here. I'm trying to live my best life. And my $10,000 that I have on my credit card, maybe, enhance my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If I could go
For
ahead.
everybody else to see that, but inside at your house, you're not living that way because you're paying that credit card off.
No, I'm not. I'm paying the minimum.
Man, the minimum, yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
That's one way to live. You're correct.
It felt good in the moment, though.
It
You know,
felt good in the
when we was popping the bottles and eating the fine food, it felt good.
Yeah,
you looked good the other day in that new outfit that you was wearing.
Yeah.
It felt good.
New sneakers, new jewelry.
My class reunion coming up. You know I can't pull up in this old Ford that I got.
Yep.
I need a credit card to rent the
Yeah.
I'll get ready.
We're gonna rent. We'll rent the G-Wagon.
The G-Wagon. Hey, I cannot let these people know that I'm not living that life. They must know that I'm full of success.
Yeah.
What you say to that, Eric? Come on.
That's
Give me
why
a chance.
That's why all these people making money doing credit repair.
Okay, so let's think about that then. How does having a budget, sticking to a budget, and credit all work hand in hand?
So if I'm living within my budget, basically cash, where I'm not overspending, living outside of my means or anything like that, again, I'm not saying not to have a credit card at all, but again, using a credit card would not affect that because again, anything you do in your credit card should be within inside of your budget, so you just be able to pay your credit card off every month. So again, you're just using your credit card basically as a debit card. The problem is, and the reason why certain financial people tell you not to even mess with credit cards is because we know how that works. If I have a credit card, if I go somewhere and I have a credit card to buy something, again, like you said, I'm going to buy it because the credit card is going to allow me to buy it.
Whatever the limit is.
Whatever that limit is, I'm going to do it. If I want to go on a vacation and my credit card is going to allow me to do it, I'm going to do it. And I'll just deal with that later. I'll live this life now and handle that down the road. But down the road, I'm not able to save money for retirement, put money into a savings account, put money into my emergency funds, do the things that I know in my personal financial goals I'm not going to be able to reach because I'm stealing the ability to do that with credit cards, with living this life that everybody believes that they believe everybody on Facebook is living, but they're really not living those lives.
Man.
Crush your little bubble.
Yeah. I'm trying to live my best life, Eric. Come on now.
Uh-huh.
But here's the thing. Here's my issue, right? Maybe somebody can resonate. I set a budget and then never revisit it. And things may go up above that budget and it's going to take me about 12 months to figure it out. So what can I do to really stay on top of the budget? Because the budget sounds good until you get too busy. You get too busy with life. And now the bills come faster than your ability to actually pay attention to them.
And update the budget as you go along, right?
Yeah, it's something that you should revisit every month. One thing that young people today do not know about is reconciling your bank account.
What's that?
Exactly. So a lot of times when again, with coaching clients, we talk about reconciling your bank accounts to take a look at what you're doing with your money on a monthly basis. Nowadays, no one uses checks. But back in the day when you had to do a general ledger where you had to actually write all your bills down and add up your bank accounts so you know how much money you have at all times, you would know what you're doing with your money. But now all you do is swipe your debit card, swipe your credit card, and just keep it moving. So you have no idea that you're spending all this money going out to eat. You're spending all this money on different type of subscriptions and things like that because you don't do the simple thing of reconciling your bank account every month. If you do that and take a look at your budget on a monthly basis, it'll give you a much better idea of what you're doing with your money as opposed to, like you're saying, I don't really think about it until, like, if I set financial goals at the beginning of the year, like we all, well, I won't say we all, because we all, then we would have this conversation. But
need for you.
Yeah. People set financial goals at the beginning of the year. And again, like you said, you don't revisit them till October, November, that type of time when it's too late to go back and make the adjustments or do the fixes that you need to do to reach the goals that you set at the beginning of the year. If it's something that you're doing on a monthly or quarterly basis, you can make the adjustments to fix that. An example would be if I'm saying that I want to have $10,000 at the end of the month, at the end of the year in a savings account, how much a month do I have to do every month to put into that?
Oh, you asking? Come on, do the math.
Oh, man.
It's about $800.
About $800.
Yeah, about
Yeah,
$800
that's what I was going to say.
But if I'm not doing that every month, If I'm just living my life, not making sure that I do these type of things, then at the end of the year, and I haven't been doing it on a consistent basis, I'm not going to reach that goal in October or November because there's no way I'm going to be able to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about you said we make these financial goals at the beginning of the year. That's that New Year's resolution thing,
Just
right?
like any other resolution, correct.
And that's such a farce because in 2 weeks, every resolution that you made is going out the window. Oh, I'm going to be in the gym. I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm going to start budgeting my money. 2 weeks later, you at Round Rock Donut with the big 5-pounder in your face. You know, the gym actually, for your $9.99 a month, they bring pizza and donuts in there to keep you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention that gym name. And then your financial goals, everything hit. Like you said, your registration tags.
Mm-hmm.
You know that come every year. The number is right there on your dashboard, but you're not thinking about it. When it hit, it surprised you every time.
It seems like every year I got to replace my windshield wipers, right?
You need to do
You know
that
what I'm saying? Like,
regularly.
I'm like, why I got to replace it? I don't go nowhere. Why I work from home, so I'm remote. So I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Why am I using it? And then every time it's like, oh, we need to do this. This is another charge. This is another fee. I mean, I didn't count for that, right? Just to get that inspection.
But again,
so
that
I
goes
can
back to what I was saying before. When I'm doing my 70%, I'm not saying, okay, my 70% is just for fixed expenses.
Yeah.
I need to say in my head, there has to be an amount that I believe is for miscellaneous things. Things happen. On the way here, I got a flat tire. You know, of course, it was only $25, but what if something major happened? And like the tire blew or something happened where it was way more than $25 to get the tire fixed.
Right.
So I have to be cautious and know that miscellaneous things are going to happen. You know things are going to happen. So you need to be prepared for that. You need to have money in the bank. That's why people talk about having emergency funds and savings accounts in case there's some type of emergency. The problem is people put money into savings accounts and emergency funds, and things that are not an emergency, they take the money out for that.
Vacation.
When it's not an actual emergency, some type of sale, vacation.
My mental health. I needed, it was an emergency. I needed a
vacation.
vacation.
Really need to do that money with. That's how you end up spending that money. Because you're not, it's like when I meet with clients and say I meet with a client and the client says, okay, I want to do $5,000 a year or $6,000 a year. So that's $500 a month. And they say, okay, I'm going to start saving $500 a month. And I said, well, what have you been saving up to today? And they say, nothing. I said, you're not going to save $500 a month. What do you mean? I have, we did all these numbers because what I make people do, I make them put all what they think their expenses are on a spreadsheet. And when they get done, they always have money left over. And when I say, what's in your savings account? They have nothing. Everything's not on your sheet. What do you mean? All the miscellaneous things that you don't realize you're doing, you're not putting on the sheet. But if you actually went through your bank account, went through your credit card, looked at what you actually spend your money on, you'll see that you do a lot of miscellaneous things that you could actually cut out to start putting towards your savings account or your emergency fund or paying down debt or all these different things. But again, that's too easy. It's too easy to not do that. It's too easy to just go to Round Rock Donuts or not go work out or not do these things. Using that same mindset. It's hard every month to get up and say, like ourselves, we put money on our Roth accounts. So the first of every month, I put $500 in each one of our Roth accounts. It's automatic. The same thing, our 401ks, my money comes automatically out of my business account into my solo 401k. It's automatic. These are things that you don't even think about. If it's something that you have to think about, there are other things that are going to come up that you're going to want to do instead of saving money, paying down debt, doing all those type of things. Because again, you want to live your best life, so to speak.
I really think that automatic statement that you just made was important because the hard part about budgeting is I'm going to pay all my bills and whatever's left, I'll save. Yep. If you do it that way. But if you take out your money from the beginning, okay, I make $10,000 a month. Okay, I'm going to put $2,000 over here off top. So I only have $8,000 left.
Correct. Off top.
And that means I can only work with the $8,000.
That's why
but we think we got $10,000.
Yeah. That's why I love when people say I'm living check to check. That's a choice. Because again, like you said, If I took that $2,000 and I put it into my 401k or my Roth or my traditional IRA, and it's money I could not see, I'm gonna live off of $8,000.
So is that
Trust me.
living check to check if you already put the money aside?
You can still have that mindset, but at least you're reaching your goals. If my goal is to put money in my 401k or put money in my IRA, and I automatically do it before I start spending my money, so that's the way my mindset is. It's I already have goals. So again, like I said, I put money in that. I put money into my brokerage account. I put money into our 401ks. So any money that's left over, I don't fret about, oh my God, we don't have any money. I know that I'm reaching my goals because I'm putting money into all the things that I said at the beginning of the year I'm going to do. That stuff's automatic. That money already goes in there before we spend any money. So when you do it that way, you're going to at least reach your goals. You might, like you said, it goes back to the paycheck to paycheck mindset of I get paid on Thursday, today's Monday, I only have $50. That's a paycheck to paycheck mindset. But if I'm doing all my goals and I only have $50 in the bank, that's a whole different conversation than somebody who's not doing anything, who has no money saved. If there was an emergency, I really only have $50. I don't have a savings account, I don't have an emergency fund, I don't have any of that. But if I'm already doing all those things first, then I have $50 left over before payday, but I've done everything else, then that's fine. At least I'm reaching my goals doing that way.
Yeah, I'm glad. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what do you say to those individuals out there that like, hey, I'm living check to check, but I'm barely scraping. I'm borrowing from Peter to pay Paul every month, and it's getting deeper and deeper. And I may not have that money really as far as to pay all my bills in that month, because sometimes your light bill is like, especially during the weather, it's up and down. $300 light bill. Usually it's 150. Now it's 300. Certain things like that we didn't account for, and you barely can fit that in. It's already tight. So if I'm not even getting to the 401k, I'm not even getting to that. I don't even have that. I can barely breathe. I can barely breathe. What would you say to those individuals that are struggling and working hard and trying to make it work within the budget? Like, what do you suggest how to make that budget work and really live?
So a lot of times, again, you'll have to really take a look at what you're spending your money on. I know people don't believe it, but a lot of times you're living above your means. You might be driving a car that is too expensive for you. Just because you went to the dealer and they said you could get it,
man,
that doesn't mean that if you were doing your budget, like I said, if I said, this is my 70%, and in my 70%, this is how much I can afford in my 70%, you wouldn't be driving that car. Or if I said, okay, I'll give you an example. If you say I gotta live in a house that's 25% of my income, I know the way housing prices are today and all this and that, but for a long time, most people they buy houses that are way above the means of their paycheck. And so when something happens, again, you don't have the extra money, the miscellaneous money, because your 70% is basically being eaten up by your fixed expenses. And a lot of times when I meet somebody and I say, hey, you got to sell that car or you got to downsize your home, that's a sacrifice they're not willing to make. But the answer to that, going back to the weight, how do people lose weight? You burn more fat than you I'm sorry.
Caloric intake.
You burn more calories than you consume. Yeah. Same thing. How do you save money? I spend less money than I make. If I can't make the sacrifices of cutting these expenses, whatever, then what's the other side to that?
Simple concept, but not so easy to do.
No, it's not easy.
Again, are you willing to work the 60 to 80 hours to get yourself out of that?
I'm glad they got credit cards. I guess that's my...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No.
I'll put it this way. I was leaving the hospital on the way here. A guy, he pulled up and he was in a brand new Benz. And he got out and I parked and I came in and he was walking around. He had an Outback bag. He was doing DoorDash.
Really?
Now, if you want to drive that car, then if you got a DoorDash on a Sunday, in order to be able to drive that car, that's on you.
Wow.
That's on you.
There was a song that said, I did a lot to live this lifestyle.
To live this lifestyle. You see what I'm saying? So
I did DoorDash.
a lot of people will sit back and say, man, I'm not working 60 to 80 hours. Then you can't afford that car. You can't afford that lifestyle that you believe you want to do. And the answer they believe is going and getting business credit or, man, I didn't want to do that yet. Go ahead and get these credit cards and do all this stuff to be able to live this lifestyle. But they don't want to make the sacrifice of having to work harder. It's almost like people who say they want to own a business and stuff like that. You don't work 40 hours doing a business. All of us have businesses.
Mm-mm.
You know,
a minimum.
All day and night.
It's all day and all night thing. So if somebody's sitting in front of me and they're just working a regular job and they're saying that they can't pay their bills, I'm not saying that to down you or do anything like that. Again, the way I save money is I spend less money than I make. If we go over your expenses and everything like that, and you're right, there are times when I'm sitting in front of somebody and there's nothing we can cut.
Right.
There's absolutely nothing we can cut. And again, then the discussion is, well, you're driving this type of car, or you're living in this type of house, or, or you've built up these credit card debt and all this stuff that now you're having to pay back. So now there's really nothing that I can sit here and say to you, okay, it's easy for me to say to somebody, okay, quit spending all this money on Amazon, or quit going out to eat, or cut all these gym, subscriptions and all this and that. It's not always that easy. A lot of times I'm driving a car that's way too expensive for my income, or we're living in a house that's way too expensive for our income. And obviously we don't want to hear that because, we don't want to sell our car. We don't want to sell our home and things like that. So at the end of the day, the only answer is, and again, it's not even so much going to find another job. Maybe it's find a better job.
Yeah.
Maybe it's find a better job.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's the only way you can get yourself out of debt. That's the only way you can save money. Again, it sounds simple saying it, but it's the absolute truth. You have to spend less money than you make. That's the only way you can save money.
Now, Eric, you get to see people's, financials up close and personal. It's easy for you to say, this means you're living above your means right here. Look at this car payment. That's too much. Look at this house payment. That's too much. But you just also made a mention of something that even I could see without looking at someone's financials. You got the Outback bag in your hand, getting out the bins to go deliver the DoorDash. So my question I want to throw out there is, what are some signs that we can visually see that someone is living beyond their means?
Or dashing it with a Benz.
That's one. But give me some more. Call a couple more out.
But in all fairness to that, just so we're clear, you could be somebody who's door dashing with the Benz because I have certain debts that I want to pay off early. So, or I want to put more money into something. So it's not so much where I'm saying this guy was broke. I'm just saying this guy made a decision to DoorDash on a Sunday. So he's doing more than just his regular job. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
Before somebody jumps up and says, hey, everybody who's door dashing or everybody who has a part-time job or something like that, that doesn't mean they're broke. Absolutely not. Again, I might have the goal of saying, hey, I have these credit cards and I'm having no problem paying them off, but I want to pay them off early. So if I work, a part-time job or DoorDash or deliver pizzas or do whatever, if I do that for 6 months or do that for a year, I'll be able to knock these bills out much quicker. And if they're willing to do that, make that sacrifice, obviously there's nothing wrong with that.
Fair point.
Obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times, a lot of people who are out here door dashing, who are out here delivering pizzas, who are out doing security and stuff like that, a lot of times it's people who can't pay their bills. So that's the difference. And so how do you know someone? It's kind of hard, to be honest with you, because Facebook has everybody looking like they're millionaires.
Yeah.
Facebook has everybody looking like they're living these incredible lives. So unless you're actually going to their home and watching them struggle to pay their bills, a lot of times it's actually hard, to be able to tell somebody is really, really and truly struggling. Like I said, I'm not trying to be funny. A lot of times there's people I'm watching on Facebook and Instagram and everything like that who have these businesses who claim they're making all this money, but then when they come in and do their taxes, they're not really living the lifestyle that they're portraying to everybody. Again, it's back to the fake it till you make it kind of deal. It's like I tell people, it's like back in the day, remember when they were doing the T? when they were
yeah,
selling
yeah,
tea.
yeah,
It'd be like, how can I get you to buy tea to lose weight if I'm not losing any weight?
yeah.
So the same thing. How can I get you to join my team or be part of what I'm doing? And I'm telling you, you're going to make all this money doing it, and I'm not making any money doing it. So I have to portray. I have to
Portray.
put my Tesla or my G Wagon or whatever on social media to prove that I make money. I have to sit around, holding all this money in my hand, making everybody believe I'm making all this money. And usually people who really truly have money,